My topic was women participation in nationalist politics, 1919 to 1933. Then my PhD was also on the same subject, women participation in nationalist movement, 1930 to 42. Yes. There I had confined the study to 4 districts, 2 from UP and 2 from Gujarat, Meerut and Agra in UP and Ahmedabad and Surat in Gujarat. And then basically my research focused on the post 1930 period, because women participation in the civil disobedience movement of 1930 really, shook the British colonial state at its very roots. And, people were that, how was this possible? And after civil disobedience movement, it became clear that the numbers of the days of British rule in India were numbered, and 16 years later, independence came. So, when I was doing my research, doing my MPhil thesis, I was saying, and in fact, I had interaction with some of the women who participated in the freedom movement. Dr. Usha Mehta, a star participant during the Quit India movement. So she said that, we were participating in a nationalist movement and not a feminist movement. But as I used to say that as early as 1917, Sarojini Naidu led a delegation to the Secretary of State, Sir Edwin Montagu, who was in India in 1917, and made a demand that women should also get the right to vote. Though number of voters was very small, but it was that principle of gender equality must be endorsed. So the nationalist ideology in India that endorsed the principle of gender equality in the state legislatures, which came into existence as a part of the Government of India Act 1919. So all states, 1919, all states, Madras, Bombay, they were the first to give women the right to vote. Then in 1923, UP gave the right to vote, and in UP, the resolution was unanimously passed. One argument used to be that, when we are demanding independence from the colonial state, how can we justify that demand if one half of the populace is under subjugation? So 23 UP gave, then Punjab in 25, Assam in 26, in Bihar and Odisha it used to be one state. The resolution was defeated twice, and finally it was passed in 1929. There was an anti-Parda campaign in Bihar. So, and in the 1931 session of the Indian National Congress at Karachi, the Equal Rights Resolution was passed. But what do you mean by equality? How do you define equality? So the women's movement from 31 to 47, equality was defined as economic independence for women, share in ancestral property, right to divorce, control over fertility, and freedom from slavery of the kitchen. And one more aspect, one more thing, a new look at man-woman relationship, then a similar educational curriculum for men and women, and co-education, because it was said that India is a poor country, so we can't afford separate institutions for men and women. So that is how equality was defined. Now, some people used to say that, why are we going into history? Why not, talk about something contemporary? So here I want to say that in 1929, Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay, she said when to marry, whom to marry, and when she is fit for motherhood, these are questions which should be decided by women. So it is a relevant question that even in 2022, do women have that kind of a freedom? So the question, and why temptation was to start the study from 1930. But then I said that let me write a connected history of the woman question in colonial India. 1820 is chosen because that is the year when Raja Ram Mohan Roy speaks against the sati practice. And see, it took him 9 years to convince the British that the practice of sati has no mention in our Shastras, in our religious texts. So it took him full 9 years to convince. And even some very modern, like widow remarriage was legalized in 1856. Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar, he spent all his life in getting 60 widows remarried. And police protection was required to solemnize widow marriages. Then in the south, Viresa Lingam, he was based in Raja Mundri. He made the mission of his life to get widows married, and problem was that one could not get priests who would solemnize the marriage ceremonies. Then young people who are marrying widows, they would be socially excommunicated. So these are the odds. Then the thing is that a very modest effort of raising the marriage age from 10 to 12, that was resisted, and that the orthodoxy got a legitimacy when a nationalist like Lokmanya Tilak opposed these measures on the ground that a foreign government has no right to interfere in our internal matters. In fact,